Alright, Common Core Algebra 2, so here we are for the last section of Chapter 5. This is going to be 5.9, Writing Polynomials, which we've done a little bit already, but the big thing we're going to change here is now, instead of telling you that the leading coefficient is a, or giving you some value for the leading coefficient, you're going to be given an extra point, and we have to figure out that leading coefficient now. Okay, so one thing we need to keep in mind is that if I tell you C is a 0, or an x-intercept, and so if you're going to see it as an x-intercept a lot, then it would be written as something like C, 0, meaning your y value is 0 for your x-intercept. Okay, so if C is a 0, C0 is the x-intercept, and therefore x minus C is a factor. Okay, so you may be given it as a point like this. It's only an x-intercept if that y value right here is the number 0. An example of what that might look like is here. So you see here we have 3 zeros. These y values are all zeros, so they have to be 3 zeros. And it must then be a cubic function. Okay, at least a cubic. Now you'll also notice that all of these are real values. We don't have any imaginary or any irrational zeros here, so therefore we don't have to worry about the conjugate pair, and so we know it's just a cubic. And the last thing here is that you're told it passes through this point. Now you'll notice your y value is not 0, so this is not a point that is a 0. This is going to help us find the leading coefficient. Okay, now it doesn't mean that this gives you your leading coefficient. It's just going to be used in the end to help us find the leading coefficient. Before we do that, what we want to do is take these zeros and write them as factors. So I'm going to have f of x equals a being my leading coefficient, which I haven't figured out yet. And then I'm going to have x minus c1, x minus c2, x minus c3 for as many zeros as I have. In this case, I only have 3, so I only need to write the 3. X plus 4, because that's negative, remember I have to switch the sign, x minus 2, and x minus 5. And the last thing we need to do then is find this value for a. That's the new piece for us. Okay, this we've all done before. What we're going to do then is use that point, 0, 10, that you were given above. And remember, this is an x value, and this is a y value. Or the other way to think of that is an f of x value. Okay, so this piece is going to have to change to 10, and all of our x's are going to be 0. Okay, now it's not always going to be 0 and 10, but they're nice and easy to work with. So I plug those in, my whole problem changes, and then I'm just going to simplify some things. So I'm going to leave the 10, I'm going to leave the a, I get 0 plus 4 is 4, 0 minus 2, this should actually be negative 2, and 0 minus 5, negative 5. Okay, now I just need to multiply those three values together. I'm basically just solving for a here. You see I've got an equation with one variable. So 4 times negative 2 times negative 5 is going to give us a positive 40. So you see we wrote that now as a coefficient, so in front of a. And last step, you guys have all done a billion times now, we're going to divide both sides by 40, and so we get a equals 0.25. Now we know our leading coefficient. So to write our function, we're going to take that leading coefficient and replace a with 0.25, and it would look something like this. Okay, f of x equals 0.25 times x plus 4 times x minus 2 times x minus 5. And the last thing that you're going to have to do in class, I'm not going to show it on the video to save you some time, but you could be expected to write this in standard form, which we talked about in class a little bit already. We did a couple days on that, where we'd multiply those two binomials together, and then we multiply that result times x plus 4, and then we would finally finish by distributing 0.25 into our function, and we'd be done. We'd have it in standard form. So this, remember, should give you a cubic because we've got x times x times x. There's 3 zeros, therefore a cubic. That has to be our degree. Also remember that if you are told a 0, or if you are told it in the format of an x-intercept, you know a 0, and therefore can write the factor based off that 0. We're going to plug in another value from the point we're given and solve for our leading coefficient. All right, see you next time, guys.